Welcome to Face to Face, and today we're going to talk about literature. We're going to talk about book. I'm with Luca DiMatteo, and he has a new book, and so I will welcome Luca. Welcome to Face. Hope
Thank
you
you,
are
David.
doing well. And
Thank you, David. Glad to be here. How are you?
good. So what? How did you want to introduce to our audience? How did you end up writing?
Well, actually, yeah, writing. I've always written. I had a website for a while that I was writing for with my wife, and always wrote short stories. Matter of fact, I actually started a novel almost 40 years ago.
Oh wow!
For those people who can remember what a floppy disk is, it's on a floppy disk somewhere in the world. I have no idea where it is, but it was
going to be able to find the computer to read it.
Yes. Whenever computers came out with floppy disks. But anyway, I was a medical doctor for 25 years. February of 2018, I hurt my back badly and had to retire. And so my writing career started from there. I started picking up a dream that I had about writing this novel about this nurse who worked in a luxury nursing home and how she starts to find out that the patients are being murdered or that they're dying off too quickly. And the more she investigates, the more she finds out that she's being framed. Everything points to her. The storylines in the book there's 3 storylines, and they always twist and turn together. But as far as me, Greenhaven, for me, was a savior. It kept my sanity. I went from being very active. I played golf, I played tennis, and I played basketball. And all of a sudden, I couldn't do anything. And I was caught up. My mind needed to get out. My mind needed to release. And as Greenhaven started to develop, it gave me that outlet and saved my sanity.
So it became a therapy for you to get out of your situation, more or less.
Yes. It basically, when you're in that kind of situation, you have 2 choices. One is to go further down the proverbial rabbit hole, or another way is to find the strength to dig yourself out. And I've never been one to go down the rabbit hole all the way, and I don't plan to now. So I had to find some way to come back from where I was going to be and what my new situation was going to be like. And being an author was something that was always in the back of my mind. And now I get to do that. And that's where Greenhaven came along. The storylines kind of wrote themselves. It was like I was dictating the stories as they were telling me. But that's what helped me. It gave me time after my surgery to heal. And there were times where I couldn't get out of bed, and I would sit there and I would write and scribble on a pad for 15 minutes at a time, and then have to take some pain medication and go to sleep, then come back to it. And I'd read it the next day and find out that half of it was gibberish and have to rewrite it again. But that's really my transition from being the medical doctor, spending 25 years in the field. I was a podiatrist. I spent a lot of times in nursing homes, and they say to try and write what you know. And so that's why the story takes place where it takes place. It's not a knock or anything like that on any of the nursing homes. Actually, the dozen or so that I've been in were all wonderful.
So the nursing home story, before we go to your side, in New York City, it's a big issue with our governor and the counting of people who die from the COVID and so on and so forth. So it was when I read your introduction, I was like, oh, this is like some kind of news of the same issue. And then so maybe you can explain, because I know you have a very interesting point of view on the nursing counting story in New York.
Well, I do, and I should tell you that I wrote the story in 2000. Started writing it in 2018, so it was well before any of COVID started.
Yeah, absolutely.
As far as the nursing home situation in New York, I've done some reading on it and stuff like that. I find it difficult how your mayor could actually know the numbers. Most people understand that you don't really die from COVID. You die from complications of COVID.
Yeah.
Lung problems, heart problems, whatever it may be. The infection, your T cells move ahead quickly.
Yeah.
And I can see that, the home miscounting and stuff like that. But that's, if you're talking about the point of one person being in trouble for that, I think it's more like a perfect storm. And I think that the reporting gets twisted and turned, and the man at the top is ultimately responsible. But I'm not sure he's going to the actual nursing homes and counting who has passed away from.
We are sure not. That's very clear.
So I don't know if he can be totally to blame for it.
Yeah. That we know then Cuomo doesn't spend his day doing to the nursing home counting the people. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think he's got a little more important things to do right now.
Exactly. I hope so. So to go back to your book, so it's a story. It's inside the nursing home, and tell us more.
Well, it takes place in and around this nursing home called Greenhaven. The director of nursing, Kathy Arden, finds out that patients are starting to pass away too quickly, and the number is going up, and she's trying to figure out why. As she starts to dig into it, she starts to find out that everything starts pointing to her. The story is a mystery, but there's also humor in it. She lives alone, she's single, and she likes to watch detective stories. So she's using the things she's learned in her detective stories that she watches to help her solve this mystery. And so every once in a while, she'll be like, okay, this is what I need to do because this is what happened on television. And it either works for her or fails drastically. And the storyline for her, she's the main character, is about her. Something happens to her in the beginning of her career where she was supposed to be vibrant and wanting to change the world through nursing. And something happens and she sticks her head in the sand. And now she's forced to come out of that. She's forced to stand up for herself and find out what's going on, or she could end up in prison.
Wow. So, but you use the nursing because you know the place, because you have experience with that, or it's come from somewhere else?
No, I use the nursing home setting because I am used to that. Like I said, I spent 25 years in and out of nursing homes treating patients. The premise isn't about the nursing homes in poor care. In actuality, there's an underlying premise. There's a line in the book that that Greenhaven is the place for the rich and the forgotten. Mm-hmm. The underlying premise behind that is, and this doesn't happen in all the cases, so I don't want to make a generality of it. But what happens is, as people go into nursing homes, their families come to visit them, and as time goes on, and maybe the residents in the nursing home get a little more ill, maybe they have Alzheimer's or something like that, or maybe it's through guilt of putting them there. I don't know the reasoning, but they get less and less visitors as time goes on. And that's not a generality. That's just in some of the cases I've seen. I know through my experience that there's been patients in nursing homes that I might go into a nursing home once every other week. And if I see this patient, I might be the only outside patient other than the staff that they get visited from, okay, in maybe a 2 or 3 or 4 week time span.
Wow.
And it's not, I don't want to profess this to be a bad thing. It just is.
Yeah.
People get busy, their lives, they have children and whatever might be going on. Maybe like now in COVID, okay, that's even more. Okay?
Yeah, it's very
people
challenging.
can't go in, they can bring the disease into the building. So these residents now are basically not able to see their families.
Yeah, they're locked down. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You wanted to read a part of?
Oh, sure. So I told you that there was a couple of storylines. So the section I'm going to read now has to do with the main character, Kathy, and she suspects that her boss, the administrator of the building, Kyle, is responsible for the murders. Kyle is all of a sudden going away for the next 2 days, and he's leaving her in charge. And Kyle's got this very big ego, and he and Kathy have this very hateful relationship because whatever went wrong, I don't want to tell you what it was, you'll have to read the book for that, affected Kyle very badly in the corporation's eye. And he has not been given advances. He's not been allowed to move up in the company. And so he blames her. So at every chance he gets, he tries to put her down for it in some way and treats her very poorly. So he's leaving now for the next 2 days, and he wants her to sit at his office, in the front of the building, so that it looks like someone in charge is there. And so this is where this picks up now, that she's going to sit there, but now she suspects him, so she's got to find out why he's doing this, or why she believes he's doing it. Kathy arrived at Kyle's office much earlier than she had expected. She couldn't help herself. The waiting seemed endless. She pulled out the sticky note with the passwords, making sure no one was looking through the glass in the thin door, and then booted up the administrator's computer. The morning shift nurses were due to arrive at 7. They'd be getting their updates from the nursing staff. The CNAs would be occupied with getting the residents ready for breakfast. Arriving early, Kathy had some quiet, uninterrupted time before she had to start her own day. She stared at both passwords and couldn't get her mind off the second one. What are you protecting? What are you up to, Kyle? It got the better of her. She glanced over the desktop icons, looking for anything that didn't appear work-related. There was nothing. She checked the documents files, and still nothing out of the ordinary. She hit the icon on the left of the screen again to pull up the menu. Kathy was about to press the search button when a knock on the door startled her. She looked away from the monitor, causing her to hit the shutdown command accidentally. She panicked as the computer continued to shut down. Kathy waved the gentleman in, trying to act like nothing was going on. Kathy didn't recognize him. And I'm not going to read you any more, but she's in the middle of trying to find out what's going on and why he suddenly left for 2 days for no reason. And in the midst of doing that, she finds 2 passwords that belong to his computer. It wasn't a secret. Kyra couldn't remember his passwords, so he'd write them on the bottom of his blotter on his desk. But there were 2 this time. And so she decided to go in and look at the second one. And in the midst of doing it, someone knocked on the door. Now she's got to figure out how to undo what she's done before the boss comes back and everybody else starts coming in.
I see.
And so she's trying to be this super sleuth detective, but she bumbles her way from time to time. It's kind of humorous at times, but the story is truly a mystery. There's 3 storylines that run through the book that twist and turn and come together in the last third of the book. But I'm not going to tell you any more about it.
No. So how did you? How did your first book? No.
This is my first book. Yes.
How did you get published? How do you get a publisher? It's really a challenging story to get a publisher these days.
It's a very difficult time. There are 3 types of publishing right now. There's self-publishing, which most people know about. There's traditional publishing, where you get an agent, and then an agent goes to one of the 5 major publishing houses. And then there's now the in-between, which is called the indie or hybrid publisher. That's the route I went. I use Mascot Books, which did a very fine job. I have no complaints with them. They're great. But as an author, that's one of the difficult parts. I found the writing to be easy. Yeah. I found the publishing to be the hard part.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
It's a very long time sending out agent letters and trying to find the right agent to match with. It's very difficult.
So I read somewhere it took you like 4 months to write the book, but it took you a year to get it distributed.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely correct. And in that, there was a lot of mistakes and a lot of learning. If you're a first-time author, find a way to hook up with someone who's done it before and pick their brain. I was lucky. I had a fellow author who I met by chance by the name of Teresa Makowitz, who had been going through Mascot Publishing and had helped me do that. And I would offer my help to those who need it too, because it's not easy. It's a difficult path.
No, I was surprised when you show me the book like this. I'm like, wow, it's published. It's a published book. It's really challenging. So
well, I have to stop you there for a minute, David. The cover, okay, was of Greenhaven was designed by my wife, Laura. She's an architect, and she's fantastic with her vision, and the cover was her design. I can't take credit for that.
Yeah, no, of course. So what's going to be next for you? Are you planning to keep going, or what is?
Yes, I'm going to keep going. I have 2 stories, one already done and one I'm working on, and one is the second story that is done is called Standards of Care, and it is another medically based story about a young doctor who opens up a practice in a low income area and finds out that her patients either have to choose between their medications and treatment or feeding their family. So she does things in her office to try and help them, and the government puts her on trial for it.
Wow.
Much like Greenhaven, where Greenhaven is the nursing home as the background, the trial itself is the background.
It could be like a true story, because I know in some places people were distributing food to homeless and they were arrested because of street whatever. And then, I mean, it was something on that line.
Similar, yes, but she does things in her office to try and help her patients, and it works, but it works too well, and the government catches wind of it. And so they find a way to put her on trial. And the story is about her and the people around her. The trial is, again, just the backdrop. And it's interesting in that story, when I was writing the characters, that an inanimate object, a structure in the story, became a character. And I had never faced that before, but it gained a life of its own. So that book, called Standards of Care, I'm looking to maybe have an agent and go traditionally. And then I'm writing my first period piece right now, which is called Lunchtime PI. And it's about a woman who works for a private investigator who's not too smart, and he doesn't pay her for her lunch breaks. So she goes out on her lunch break. He gets this case he's never going to solve. And she goes out on her lunchtime and she starts to try to solve it. And it's been a very funny case, a very funny book to write.
I can imagine.
Excuse me?
I can imagine. It's a very funny story.
It's hilarious. I'm laughing as I write it. And again, much like Greenhaven, much like Standards of Care, I feel like I'm just being the person dictating. I'm writing it down, rather, the transcriber.
So this is my next question to close a little bit. It looked like you have for 25 years also of working doing something else. You have compressed all your ideas, and then now you're just taking a piece of paper and you put them down in 4 months and you write a book.
Well, I don't know if these other ones are going to have taken 4 months. Greenhaven did, but the other ones seem to be stretching a little bit longer. Okay. But yes, it's a lot of that is just coming to me, and I don't know if it's just my experiences or something else, but as long as I can keep doing it, I'm going to keep trying.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for being on the show. It was really, and good luck with this book, the next one, and then the next one. I hope we're going to be able to talk again for your next publishing.
I would love to come back. Thank you very much, David.
That was your show Face to Face, and keep with watching your news on presenza.com. And we hope to hear and see you very soon. Thank you very much.